Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. All right, I mentioned that we've crossed the 10,000 subscriber threshold on YouTube. Well, we also have a fantastic goal to get to a set number of Insider Group members on our Locked On Cougars Insider Group. If you would like to be a part of that, join us today. It's just $5 a month to get the inside scoop on all things BYU sports that I'm hearing. The best part is it comes to your phone in the form of a text message. You're not having to go to a message board or log on to a website to get the inside intel that you crave. Join us today, $5 a month, but more importantly, you get a 14-day free trial to be a part of the group and see if it's the right option for you guys. So join us today. That's the Locked On Cougars Insider Group. Link to join is in the show notes, whether you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And join us today on the Locked On Cougars Insider Group. All right, at the outset of this conversation, I just want to say, first off, congratulations are in order to BYU legend Lee Cummard. He has finally got his first full-time head coaching position. Yes, he filled in as an interim head coach during the COVID season when Jeff Judkins was out due to COVID-19 issues, and he did a really good job. Won 3 straight games as BYU's interim head coach during that period as an assistant coach under Jeff Judkins. Lee, crazily enough, has been 7 years on the BYU women's basketball staff, working for Jeff Judkins, obviously, ultimately emerging as associate head coach, held that same post under Amber Whiting for the past 2 seasons, and now gets his opportunity to make his own imprint on BYU women's basketball. Here's the thing I know about Lee Cummard. He is a competitor, and he is a competitor of the highest order. I don't know how many of you know about his recruiting background. I'll give you a little bit of insight. When he was coming out of the Mesa area down there in Arizona, BYU was still kind of coming out of what had been a really, really rough run of the late 90s. Remember, it took McKelly Wesley, some Herculean efforts from Steve Cleveland to really get BYU elevated to the level that they hope to be at. Well, Lee Cummard was a premier talent, and he was looking at options up and down the West Coast. He could have picked a number of programs. He was looking at programs high and low, both at the Power 5 level at that point, but also considered BYU. He was not all that keen on BYU for a long period, as I understand it, but ultimately decided to take a chance on BYU, and history was the story that came out of this. He was an All-American both his junior and senior year. He was the Slim Reaper before Kevin Durant came along, it felt like. Remember, Lee, he is not the stockiest individual, but he was an absolute assassin on the court. I loved watching Lee play. He was so much fun to watch, and he has a burning desire to win at an extremely high level. He has stuck around BYU when he didn't have to get an opportunity to be a head coach of the BYU women's basketball team. Quite frankly, I thought he should have gotten the gig when Jeff Judkins decided to leave the program and step down from his position a few years back. I thought Lee had obviously shown himself capable, had been, as I said, the associate head coach, had done a really, really nice job under Juddy's direction. But even when he was passed over, he was loyal to the royal blue and white and stuck around in Provo, and that's a credit to him. And now he gets his opportunity. I think Lee is going to do a really, really nice job. Yes, there are going to be questions out there as to why BYU couldn't land a Kevin Young equivalent as the head coach for their women's basketball program. You know what? I trust that Tom Homo, Brian Santiago, as well as the rest of the people involved in this coaching search did their due diligence. They reached out to options out there and talked to multiple people. And you know what? Sometimes the best candidates are those who are sitting right there in front of you at BYU. And that, in this case, is Lee Cummard. He has got a burning passion to lead BYU women's basketball back to what they were under Jeff Judkins. When Juddy left, he left on a really, really high note. The program was not broken by any means. And yes, they have struggled the past couple of seasons with losing records, missing out on the postseason. Did a really good job under Amber Whiting attracting high-level talent, but it really didn't work out the way that anybody anticipated it would for Amber Whiting. And I think in retrospect, had I've been in charge of BYU basketball, which I will never be, but I would have actually, if you wanted Amber Whiting to be the head coach, the best bet you probably could have done is have her join Jeff Judkins' staff for a couple of seasons and get trained up as to what to expect as a head coach. More importantly, at the West Coast Conference level, and then ultimately at the Big 12 level. It was not, I don't think, a super fair shake to throw Amber Whiting into the fire like she was, but you know what? History is history, and that's what it is. But Lee Cummard, the one thing that I think that he has going for him is he's seen what BYU women's basketball can be under Jeff Judkins. He has seen it. He helped build it. He knows what it's going to take to succeed at BYU. Now he's got to translate that and make his own spin on it and make his own imprint as the head coach, because he can't just copy wholesale what Juddy did, because Juddy never coached at the Big 12 level. He obviously helped get BYU ready for that level, but never ultimately coached at the Power 4 level. Well, Lee's first head coaching job comes as a Power 4 head coach, and it is going to come with bumps. It's going to come with just issues that he couldn't imagine having faced. But the nice part is, knowing what I know of Lee Cummard, he will work diligently through it and he will find solutions. He did it as a player for BYU. He's one of the premier guys during the kind of that transition from the Steve Cleveland era into the Dave Rose era, and was absolutely phenomenal for the Cougars. He's played professionally. He was an assistant for BYU men's basketball. He's a graduate assistant under Dave Rose. He has seen high-level winning at BYU, and now he gets to put his own imprint, his own spin, his own influence on BYU sports, and I wish him well. I think Lee is a great, great hire for BYU, and call me biased, call me what you will. I think this is going to work out extremely well for BYU if Lee can do what I believe he can do for the BYU women's basketball program. He is seen at its highest. He's seen it at its lowest. He knows what it's going to take. And I don't think he is under any illusions that it's going to be a really snap of the fingers, quick fix for BYU women's basketball. But knowing what I know of Lee, he will give his absolute all, and it is a well-deserved opportunity for him to lead the BYU women's basketball team, and I'm looking forward to covering a little bit more as he takes over here. Obviously, we spend a lot of time on men's basketball, and for good reason, because it garners a whole lot more eyeballs. Football, for obvious reasons as well. But BYU women's basketball, when it's at its peak, it's a very, very popular sport on campus, and I'm hoping that Lee Cummard can get it back to the level that Juddy had it at and maybe elevate it just a little bit further now at the Power 4 level as a member of the Big 12 Conference. All right, that is going to do it for this Tuesday edition of the show. As always, thank you for all y'all's support. You guys are the absolute best. I tell you all the time that I cannot do what I do without you guys and the support you give us. So subscribe, rate, review, share this with your family and friends. Continue to build this audience both on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. But as I always say, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen today. And more importantly, thank you to all of you who are everydayers right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.